Abelardo, my friend, we
Buenas
can't
noches a
hear.
todos. Hola, buenas noches a todos. This is Abelardo de la Peña Jr. Welcoming you to En Casa con la Plaza. It's a Tuesday evening on a kind of a chilly day here, but we welcome all of you who are joining us on Zoom and Facebook Live on our 3 times weekly En Casa con la Plaza. We took yesterday off, of course, in honor of President's Day, but we return with the Mexican American Cultural Foundation. They've honored us with their presence a few times in 2020, and now this is their first appearance back in 2021. 3 times a week, En Casa con la Plaza brings you our community's history, art, and culture from our home to yours via these presentations, conversations, demonstrations, and performances. We've been doing that since April 2020, and of course, we're here tonight. Our sponsors, thank you so much to PepsiCo and Kaiser Permanente. If you're joining us on Zoom, use the comment feature or the chat feature, excuse me, to let us know where you're viewing from. We get people from all over Southern California, of course, but sometimes they tune in from other states, other cities, even internationally. Let us know where you're viewing from. Use the Q&A to ask questions. We'll be monitoring them. We'll ask them during the conversation or we'll ask them later. If you are on Facebook, please join in as well. Let us know where you're viewing from. Use the comments section to ask your questions, make your comments, do shout outs, and also start a watch party. I'll be doing this pretty soon myself. But to get this started, let me introduce to you the executive director of the Mexican American Cultural Educational Foundation. If you're not aware of what the Mexican American Cultural Educational Foundation is all about, I'll go ahead and tell you right now as soon as I scroll down. The core goal is to spotlight the endless contributions the Mexican American people, Chicanos, Latinos, Hispanics, Latinx, or first generation immigrants and their rich culture have given to the United States of America. So without further ado, let me introduce to you Dr. Jose Luis Ruiz. Come on up.
Well, Abelardo, thank you, my friend, so much. And thank you to La Plaza de Cultura y Arte for allowing us to have the ability to communicate with all our friends. We did this in person before COVID. We did have many events with amazing individuals, Alex Nogales, Luis Valdez, the amazing playwright, and Gloria Molina, and so many of the great Mexican Americans that have led us to a better place that we are today. And we thank you for the opportunity to do it online now. As you said, I'm the president of the Mexican American Cultural Education Foundation, and our mission is to change the distorted, intentionally damaged reputation that the Mexican American community has have to endure for over 170 years. And it's interesting. I hear comments once in a while. Why do we need a Mexican American cultural education? Why can't we just be like everybody else and join a Latino movement? And of course we love that, and we support doing any type of activity that helps our brothers and sisters Latinos, and of course everybody else as well. But we cannot forget, friends, that unfortunately, even amongst the Latino community, the Mexican American community has the most damaged reputation. And as well as I know, that a bad reputation can be terribly damaging for an individual. If you're in high school, if you're in college, and if you have a bad reputation, your life is a lot more difficult, right? You know that. If you're in business and you have a bad reputation, your life is a lot more difficult. Unfortunately, media continues this long history of offensive reputation against Mexicans just recently, and you can confirm this. You can go to Amazon Prime and look at this movie called Knives Out, and very popular movie, one of the top movies currently. And if you listen to the movie, on the minute 46.40 seconds of the movie, you will see a scene where the main characters are saying, you know, all Mexicans are coming in by millions and changing the American style of community, and then they're invading, and then another character confirms, but then he calls the one Latino main character, and he says, "Oh, come here, Dolores," and he asks her, like, look at Dolores, she's from Uruguay, and she did it the right way, you know, just reminding us, confirming how even amongst Latinos, we Mexican Americans have a reputation that we need to change. And that's why the Mexican American Cultural Foundation is like this. I can show you examples on the media, movies, example after example of the same thing. Please visit our Instagram account, Mexican American CEF, Cultural Education Foundation. And you will see endless examples of the same thing that you see on media, TV, where our reputation needs to be changed. And that's what we're working on. And the thing is, really, our reputation is so falsely damaged. And today we have an amazing opportunity to realize that that's the case. You know, we are going to have two individuals that represent the greatness of the Mexican American community. One of them, our friend Luis Fernandez, who is a historian, a highly acclaimed historian. He will tell us, you know, he will remind us of how the Mexican culture has influenced America deeply, in deep positive ways. This time he's going to talk about the cowboy culture and how that influence has gone all the way to Hawaii. People don't know this, but we Mexicans influence Hawaii's history and culture quite dramatically. And then, of course, our Mexican American history maker, Mr. Gilbert Vasquez. You know, he's done amazing things for our community. And of course, we'll have an interview with him. And many of you will learn many things, you know, on how to be successful as a Latino, as a Mexican American, how he has influenced the lives of thousands of people in amazing ways. And you will see this, you know. So anyway, without any more introduction, let me invite our friend, our amazing historian, Luis Fernandez, who holds a bachelor in English literature and Chicano studies and a master's degree in history from California State University, Fullerton. He's co-authored 3 publications. In addition, he has served as consultant for newspapers, symposium, museum exhibits, short documentaries in Spanish, television, and news media. He's currently an adjunct faculty at the Department of History at Santa Ana College and the executive director at the Dominguez Rancho Adobe Museum, which is a beautiful museum I had the fortune of visiting. My friend Luis, please give us a pearl of wisdom of our beautiful culture.
Well, good evening, and thank you for having me. If I can just share the PowerPoint that I'm going to share. There we go. So I'm going to start talking about the rancho culture, first of all, and like I said, good evening. I'm going to start talking about the rancho culture that developed in the Southwest, and then, you know, how we came about and how it, you know, and transferred to where we talked about Hawaii. So 1 minute. So if you go back to the 1700s, you begin to see large land grants of ranchos being given to individual people. You begin to see Spanish predominantly, which come from the Portola expedition. These soldiers were granted large tracts of land. One of the largest in Southern California was 144,000 acres. Initially it had asked for 300,000 acres, but it only got half of what we requested. So these ranchos became Spanish then Mexican ranchos, right? One of the examples that I would give you is the Rancho San Pedro when Juan Jose Dominguez in 1784. He's a soldier from the Portola expedition. He, as a reward for his service, he asked for 75,000 acres, and it's called Rancho San Pedro. That is the whole South Bay today, for those of you who know the area Carson, Wilmington, and parts of Long Beach, as well as Torrance. Rancho Miguel was granted to, Juan Avila, Rancho San Joaquin to Jose Sepulveda, and Rancho La Cienega to Tomas Sanchez, Rancho La Boyona to Agustin Machado, and Rancho Camulos to Ignacio del Valle. And you'll recognize some of these names as streets now, or avenues throughout Southern California, predominantly the LA area. And so what defined their wealth? And large owners of these tracts like Juan Jose Dominguez and Mr. Valle, among others like Avila family, defined their wealth by large land holdings, right? And the other was cattle. You define yourself by how much cattle you actually have on your rancho. Just to give you, if I can backtrack, 1 acre, it's kind of the size of a football field. So think about getting large tracts of land, right? 144,000 acres. That's 144,000 football fields altogether, if you can visualize that, right? And so livestock defined also the wealth of these large rancheros. One of the things that you're able to differentiate the cattle, your cattle from the neighboring ranchos, was cattle brands. And on your right-hand side, you can see right here, all these cattle brands that were actually correlate with the individual ranchos and when they were actually admitted or registered as cattle brands with the state. So there's a uniqueness of each cattle rancho with its cattle brand, very symbolic to its rancho. And the rancho culture begins with the Californios. There were Spanish who later became Mexicans who lived in this area, but more to define those, there were actually vaqueros, right? And they were actually known how to wrangle cattle, how to hurdle cattle. There was specific events throughout the year where they would actually brand their cattle, and it was large festivities where cattle would be killed to actually have large events. And here you see on the right-hand side a picture of what becomes the vaqueros, right? That's the one of the Lugo descendants from the Lugo family. And they were, then you begin to see paintings and drawings that help define and romanticize the cattle culture or the vaquero culture in Southern California. Here you see a painting of California or a vaquero that essentially just wrangling cattle. And here's other paintings that help kind of portray that vaquero culture in Southern California. And cattle was used for the sale of the hide and the tallow or the fat for producing candles, and then also for the meat. And with the US invasion of Mexico that started in 1846 and ends with 1848, Mexico loses its uppermost territory, the Southwest US today, including California. And you begin to see large numbers of Anglo migration moving to California and began to embrace this vaquero culture. It happened before, but it mostly took off after the war in 1848, 1849, and 1850 with the gold rush being discovered. And Richard, there's a artist that helps actually portray this Western identity of the cowboy, the anglicized cowboy. And this is the Richard Lorenz, who sold his paintings throughout the back east and also in California, that helped propel this kind of romanticized version of what the West was in the vaquero culture, more with an anglicized version. And as Anglos began to migrate to California, they began to embrace this vaquero culture. They could not actually pronounce vaqueros, so they pronounced it in a very anglicized version, and they call it buckaroos, right? So the vaqueros become buckaroos. And you begin to see that culture take off. And in 1830s, you begin to see that culture of the vaquero culture transferred to Hawaii when King Kamehameha III is the first to unite the 8 islands of the Kingdom of Hawaii. He begins to recruit Mexican vaqueros. Initially, there were 3 of them from California to teach Hawaiians how to ride horses, how to wrangle horses. And by 1850, there's a higher demand of, cattle for consumption of meat and in the San Francisco area. And you begin to see more and more of these cattle being grown for production of meat. Now, by the 1830s, Mexican vaqueros began working in Hawaiian Islands, initially 3 of them, and then more would actually come in and influence the vaquero culture in Hawaii. First breaking in horses, rounding up horses, cattle is second, and eventually it just becomes a culture with the dress, the hats, and music and the customs of the vaquero culture that were initially in California, and then it furthers down from Texas and other places. And in Hawaii, the Mexican cowboys were known as the pañolos, and the Hawaiian word for español. And so heavily influences today, there's a lot of ranchers in Hawaii that actually claim as being heavily influenced by these Mexican vaqueros at this time. By 1850s, 1860s, 1870s, there's more cattle that is being grown sold as an export to California for the beef and whatnot. And so it becomes this place where no more vaquero culture is heavily ingrained. So you begin to see Hawaii as being kind of a hub of this vaquero or the pañolo culture that develops. So that is, a short summary of this rich culture that not only extended from Spanish to Mexican California, but also Hawaii, a large strand of, history that an influence that we continue to have across the region.
Wow, what an amazing historical experience. Yes, I mean, people don't realize how the Mexican culture has influenced America. In fact, we're the original cowboys, and it influenced even Hawaii. So our very powerful culture, very long history of culture has continued to have a great influence in this country. Thank you, historian Luis Fernandez, for such great information. I think that makes us very, very proud, and it should make us very proud to know, who we really are, and not what the silly movies, say that we are. Of course, my friend Abelardo, at some point during this event, we're happy to take some questions. I'm sure Mr. Fernandez, our historian, will be happy to answer questions if anybody has those questions.
Sure, I'm here now. First of all, if I could ask him to stop the share screen so we could get back to our.
Oh, Mr. Fernandez,
there you go. Thank you so much, Luis. All right. People just want to see our faces, and here we are. No, we just want to welcome so many people that are tuning in. We have Veronica Jimenez Fernandez from Anaheim, California, enjoying tonight's program. Ana Santana, viewing from Lucerne, California. Omar Pichardo from Maywood. We have Jerry Velasco, a good friend of ours, joining in as well. He's here. And Victor Sanchez from Boyle Heights. So a question I have, Luis, this influence of the Mexicanos in the great island of Hawaii, the islands of Hawaii, does this continue? Is there a community in any of the islands that congregate together? And if so, what's their status there on the island?
It continues to today. As a matter of fact, they claim it to have the oldest rancho or in the west, that earliest rancho as opposed to California or Texas. So the culture is very, very prominent there today. You continue to have that kind of culture existing. You have cowboys actually riding throughout the Big Island predominantly. So yeah, it continues to today. It's heavily embraced by Hawaiians as part of their heritage.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
May I just add to that, the unfortunate situation, because I've been there many times and I've taken even the cowboy tours, and unfortunately, they rarely give the credit to the Mexicans, just like the Anglo cowboys do not give the credit to the Mexican culture. It is the same in Hawaii. You know, often they say the Portuguese cowboys, da, 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 da. So we, you know, and that's one of the jobs of the Mexican American Cultural Foundation, is to educate the community about this. And hopefully Mr. Fernandez will write a book about this that will turn into a movie that will allow people to realize the true history of the cowboys in Hawaii. So
it sounds like a challenge there, Luis.
That's right, Mr. Historian Fernandez.
We'll see if you take up that mantle. Anyway,
Right.
would like to also welcome Lucia Moncada from Arlita, Abril Magaña from La Puente, and this is directed towards you, Dr. Ruiz. From Mayra Perez, we need to be mindful of the way we talk about our Latino brothers and sisters, which is so correct.
I agree with that. We are, you know, we are all humanity together for sure, and we love them all.
All right,
And not just Latinos, for sure. We love everyone.
Yes,
right?
and finally on this topic, Omar Pichardo reminds us that in Compton, in our fair community, there's a group of Black cowboys, which has been written about by Walter Thompson Herrera, a great book called The Compton Cowboys. So it's something to be mindful about. So I'm going to step back again, Dr. Ruiz, and take over and introduce our next guest, please.
Well, our next guest is actually our history maker of the month. As I mentioned before, we have had some very, very powerful, influential Mexican Americans as in our past events, you know, Gloria Molina, Jerry Velasco, Luis Valdez, and today we have somebody very, very special. Mr. Gilbert R. Vasquez has served as managing partner of Vasquez and Company since its founding in 1981 and is recognized as a prominent certified public accountant firm, community leaders and entrepreneur. Gil guided the Vasquez Company growth from one-person consultancy into the largest Latino-owned CPA firm in California. Gil was founder and president of the Association of Latino Professionals in Finance and Accounting, ALFA, the most successful professional Latino association in the United States. In recognition of his extensive community services, Gil received the Mexican American Legal Defense and Educational Funds Achievement Award, Coca-Cola Company's Golden Hammer Award, the YMCA's Metropolitan Los Angeles Golden Book and Distinguished Service Award. I personally have had the amazing pleasure of knowing Mr. Vasquez. The first time I met him, he was receiving an award, but we're gonna talk about that in a little bit, you know. Sometimes you might wonder, well, how is it a CPA has done so much from our community? And you will find out how that is the case in a powerful way. So this is a friendly interview chat, because what we want to know is how is the Gilbert Vasquez became, you know, Gilbert Vasquez, because that way our young people, our community, our Latino community can emulate such success. And I want to start, well, first of all, Mr. Vasquez, may I call you Gil? And please turn your microphone on. May I call you Gilbert?
Oh, Gil is fine.
All right, thank you, Gil. I appreciate it very much. So let me start by asking you a little bit about your early life. You know, I guess we all want to know where's your family from? Where were you born? Were you know, a little bit about early life?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I was born in what I call the wealthy community of East Los Angeles. And I say this because I was born to two wonderful parents, a wonderful mother who was happiest person in the world. You can see her smiling there, always happy, very lighthearted. Everything was immaculate in the house. She was very clean. She was very neat. She was just a wonderful person. And I had a wonderful father. When I was born, he quit smoking and drinking, so there's never any alcohol or tobacco in the house. He worked on the same job for 31 years. He was never absent. He was late one time. He never told me why. My father always got to wherever he had to go 1 hour early so he wouldn't be late. My father's from Chihuahua, and my mother's from Sonora, but she was born in San Diego. And I was born in what I call, as I said before, the wealthy community of East Los Angeles, because I was very happy. I was very proud of my parents. Whenever I go and make my speeches like I am today, I talk about that because to whatever successes I may have, or whatever accomplishments I may have attained, I owe them all to my wonderful parents. So that's just a little bit of background on them. And of course, I have a brother and a sister. My sister, after I graduated from college, she decided to go to college. She wound up going to USC Law School. I'd be one of the first Latinas to go to graduate from USC Law School. In her second year, she got pregnant, but because she's a peleonera like I am, the dean told her that she'd have to quit law school. She had been married 10 years, didn't realize she could get pregnant. She battled with the dean. He allowed her to skip 1 year. She came back, graduated from law school. My brother, I have one brother. He worked for General Motors. General Motors had 250,000 employees, 3,600 electricians. He was rated #1 electrician in the country. And in 1994, when General Motors had these 250,000 employees, he was Employee of the Year for saving them $1 million a month. Over 10 years, that's about $150 million when you take in the compounded interest. So I have a brother and a sister, and then I have 4 children. My first wife, I have 2 children. My son is a CPA and attorney and was a partner at a firm for a number of years. My daughter is a teacher at LAUSD. And then with Betsy, my second wife, I wound up adopting her daughter, and then we adopted another daughter. And so one was a businesswoman, now a full-time housewife, and the other works for the IRS, and she's an attorney as well. So I'm very proud of all of them.
Wow, wow. Well, there's just a family that loves education. Now, tell me something. Were your parents, were your parents university educated? How is they injected this passion for education that is evident even through the generations of the Vasquez?
My father had a photographic memory. He went to school in Mexico and then here in the United States, but didn't go beyond the 9th grade. My mother went to the 11th grade. But my father was a prolific reader. He could spell any word. He was extremely intelligent. My mother was very friendly. My mother was different. She was very gregarious. She was all over the place. But she was kind of shrewd. She could negotiate. And so somehow this combination of people produced my siblings and myself. So they just set a good example for me because they were very honest, very hardworking, very thrifty. My father was able to, with my mother, able to own their own house with no debt. Everything was cash and carry. So they taught me very early on to be thrifty and to be a little bit entrepreneurial, because I was always making money when I was a kid.
That's very good. That's very impressive. And with all of that emphasis on education, Gil, where did you go to school? Tell us a little bit about your was it easy for you to go to school? Who paid for it? Tell us a little bit about that journey through school.
Well, I went to, of course, I went to grade school. I went going to Roosevelt High School. I loved going to school. I had perfect attendance in junior high school, and in high school I had pneumonia, so I was in the hospital for 2 weeks. But I loved going to school. I wasn't a very good student, and I was an honor student in junior high school. But in high school, I discovered 2 things: sports and girls, and they seemed to occupy my attention more than studying. But once I graduated from high school, I realized I made a mistake. So I enrolled myself in East LA College, and then I went on to Cal State LA. Graduated from Cal State LA, And what I found to my surprise when I graduated in Cal State LA is that I could not get a job in public accounting. I wanted to be a CPA. What I didn't know, and what no one told me until I was about to graduate from high school, is at that time, if you were Latino, if you were any kind of ethnic minority, Asian, Black, if you were Jew, you were a woman, the answer was no. So what I did is I interviewed 13 firms. Sometimes there were people who were kind of rude to you or to me. But I finally got a job, and I was very fortunate. I got to work for a very large Jewish firm. And that's how I learned my profession. And then early on, I decided I would go into business for myself. So I started up in my first firm in 1970.
Tell me a little bit. So that's a very important story that you're telling us. You know, that there are young people sometimes forget. Not that long time ago, if you were a minority, and you know, when you look at history, Mexican Americans had it a little bit harder than anybody else, or than most people anyway. It was very difficult, and it took, as you say, right now, it took. You mentioned you made many attempts. You interviewed a lot of places. So what I was going to ask you is, what advice would you give the young community? Because things have, while they change, but they haven't changed fully. Let's be honest. That's something that we cannot forget. It's always a little harder for some of us to get in. What advice do you give young people when they are trying to get a job and they are, you know, Latinos?
Well, first of all, stay focused, get an education, set goals. It's always important to set goals. When I was a young boy, maybe 9 or 10, I was sitting in the dentist chair. They used to have a dentist in grammar school. They would have a dentist come by, and he's working on my teeth. And the nurse says, "Why are you doing such a good job?" And the dental assistant, and he didn't answer. And I thought, in that very second, I never considered myself poor. I was always, I remember, as I started earlier, I had 2 wonderful parents, but I knew I wasn't rich. And that very moment in my mind, I said, one day I'm gonna be rich. And you have to set these goals for yourself, because there's hurdles. Every day there is hurdles. And you're right, things have changed, but they haven't changed that much. I couldn't get a job. My GPA didn't matter. My personality didn't matter. My appearance didn't matter. I saw people that didn't have the qualities I have, or some of my classmates that were Latinos. The number 1 student in our class was Paul Fujita. He was Japanese. We just couldn't get jobs. You have to be persistent. You can't give up. You have to be tenacious. You have to be clever. You have to make your own way sometimes. The main thing is, do not give up. And this is why I formed Alpha, which we'll talk about in a second.
Well, in fact, my friend, that's actually where we're going right now, because what I was going to say is, we know that you experienced this firsthand, and you know, you had the wonderful upbringing from your family and your parents, and unfortunately, not all of our youth have such, you know, such parents, and sometimes they need a little bit of help, and I know that that's sure, and I'm sure that that's why you form Alpha. And I can tell you firsthand, because I have a very good friend who told me, even before I had the chance of meeting you, Gil, she told me that Alpha was incredibly important in her formation as a highly successful recruiter. You know, a friend of mine, Dora Cerrillos, she's a force to be reckoned with as a businesswoman, and she attributes Alpha as her support. So your organization made an amazing difference on her, and I know, in fact, that thousands of Latinos throughout the country have benefited from this organization that you formed. So I'm sure you're proud about it. Please tell our young people about this organization that they can, I'm sure they can benefit from.
Well, thank you, Jose Luis. As I mentioned earlier, I couldn't get a job when I graduated from college in a profession that I wanted to excel in. I was really good in math. I can add very fast. I have a very good analytical mind. Maybe I have a very good business mind, but I wanted to be an accountant because I knew that was a cornerstone of every business. But, like I said, it took me 13 interviews to get a job. But once I left the job that I had and started my own business, I started remembering this. I started getting more involved. I've always been very social, as I said before, and very active. And so they announced that they were giving out grants if you form minority trade associations. So I seized that opportunity. I remember my experience with Alpha, and so I formed my experience in college about the job. So I formed Alpha as a way of uniting Latinos into business opportunities. So we started with 19 people. Our first convention in Las Vegas had 16 people. Our most recent convention, the one we had face-to-face, not virtual, we had about 4,500 people. We have 80,000 members in Alpha now, with more than 200 chapters. And the idea now is to help promote upward mobility, employment, and to create a place where people can network together that are looking to advance themselves. And so I feel very proud of what I've done with Alpha, but more important, I feel good about what Alpha has done for the Latino community, because we all have dreams. As I mentioned before, you have to have goals, and part of what makes you successful is following through on those dreams. And so I'm glad that Alpha turned out to be the way it was, because you can never predict how things are going to go. We had good people. We have many years we didn't have any funding. We had volunteers that served as the presidents of Alpha, but we stayed together. And as a community, part of being successful is working together, staying together, having the same goals, and not giving up, as I said earlier. And so all of these things with Alpha have come to fruition. It's a place where many, many companies, the Fortune 500, go to this event and to the different events that they have throughout the country to seek talent. And it's all about getting that opportunity to become successful. And that's what Alpha is all about. And so whatever role I played in that, I'm very grateful for that opportunity.
This is a wonderful organization, friends. It's called the Association of Latino Professionals for America. And now you know the founder, and I encourage you to seek this organization, because I have mentioned before, I know firsthand people who have benefited dramatically by the knowledge imparted in this organization. It's in a way, it's an organization that's trying to help people that may not have those business skills to develop business skills and to learn how to be successful in the larger community. So seek the organization, and of course, finding a great mentor is always very desirable. So let's move on to your professional success, my friend. I mean, obviously, again, you yourself mentioned you did not come from a lot of wealth, and you've been obviously very successful in your career, the largest CPA firm in California. So, I mean, my goodness, that's something to be said. And so tell us, how do you do that? I mean, actually, that's what we want to know. How do you go starting a business and making it that successful? Give us the recipe. Give us the Vasquez recipe.
Well, hard work, luck, perseverance, and having an idea and a dream that you want to make a reality. And so what I did is I went into business. I started working hard. I started networking immediately. Networking is important. That's what Alpha offers you. I started meeting people. I started standing out, I guess. I was a joiner. In my career, I've been on about 40 boards, different boards of directors. And that was very, very important. Along the way, I did a small organization. My cousin, Margie Gonzalez, who was a playground director at Belvedere Park in East Los Angeles. They were going to develop Belvedere Park. She asked me to get involved. I chaired that with 7 ladies. We revamped that whole park. They spent more money on that park than ever spent on any park in LA County. But it was done for the community. It gave me a chance to develop as a leader. I taught at East LA College for a couple of years because I wanted to give something back to my community. I wound up, as I move along, recognized, so got on the bank board at 35. At 40, I became president of the California Board of Accountancy, which licenses and regulates 140,000 CPAs. I became a member of the Olympic Committee. When the Olympic Committee was in 1984, 15 people were chosen to be on that committee. Only one Latino was selected, and yours truly was the one. But once I got there, I realized that it was a responsibility. You know, some people can say, well, now I'm on the Olympic Committee, I'm a big person, this and no. To me, it was a responsibility. And so what I made sure was that we hired Latinos, we hired Latino business people. We made sure that East LA College and Cal State LA were venues for the Olympic Games, so that they weren't all on the west side or in other places. That the parade, that the Olympic torch ran through East LA and Whittier Boulevard. Remember, that was at that time the heart of Latino community. That we had Latino vendors, and so I did that. I got on the board of. I was chair of National Council of Raza, which was now Unidos Us. I wound up getting on the board of GT Verizon, on the board of Glendale Federal, which at that time was a huge institution, financial institution. And I did all of these things because I became visible. I became active. And as part and parcel of that, I acquired more clients, bigger clients, more successful clients. So I had to move out from East LA to downtown LA so I could get more, a greater variety of clients. And so that was the genesis of how I became successful.
I like that. I like that advice. We need to develop a network. You know, we cannot do anything alone. And I think your advice is amazing. Be part of the community by joining boards. And a lot of those organizations are eager to accept help, because all of that, you know, all of those boards tend to be something where you don't make any money. You know, you go there and you give your time. So that's powerful advice. You know, of course, hard work, you know, being diligent is very, very important. And there's research, my friends, by the way, just so you know, we are the Mexican American Cultural Foundation, have research to show that this is something developed by the world, the United Nations, show that Mexicans are the hardest working people in the world. There's actually research on that. So you have an example of that, you know, and
I've seen that for myself, Luis. I was a farm worker for about 6 weeks, the hardest job in my life, and no one but Latinos and Mexicans are going to do that work. You talk about hard work, year round, in and out, and you see it every day in our lives. We're the essential workers of the United States. We're in the front lines at every level. And talk about hard work, dependability, loyalty. Yeah. Unfortunately, as you mentioned earlier, we just don't get the recognition or the appreciation.
We don't get the recognition. That's correct. And then I had the fortune of meeting. I mean, the first time that I actually met Mr. Vasquez was at the Mexican American Opportunity Foundation, which he received an award for his contribution to the community. So he's received lots of awards, which is quite, you know, something that I'm sure he's very proud of and very, very well deserved. My friend, what advice do you give then to the young people, to our, not only young, or any, you know, people in our community in regards to service? Because service means doing lots and lots of things that do not make you one red penny, you know, helping the community. And you have been an excellent example of somebody that keeps doing things over and over and over to help the community without getting any type of financial benefit. Why would you advise our community to become more involved in servicing others and becoming members organizations like the Mexican American Cultural Education Foundation? Tell us a little bit, why do you feel that it's so important?
Well, first of all, you get to meet people that have your similar interests. Secondly, you grow as a person. Finally, you live in this community. You want to contribute. You want to make it better for yourself, for the people around you, for the people that are going to succeed you. and you're growing all the time. You're learning as you're doing all these things. So it's an education that's not a formal education, but it's an education that teaches you about life. And also you get to appreciate what it is that you have. You know, a lot of times you take, you know, first of all, life is beautiful. You know, I always say life is beautiful. I think you've got to be happy every day. You have to have a positive outlook. And when you're working with people, you get a chance to do all of these things. So I think that as you go through life, part of your social responsibility, part of being a good person, part of earning the respect of others is doing this type of service, because people start to look up to you, they start to appreciate you, they start to recognize you. So there's many benefits that you get as you're doing the things that I think you should be doing to better the community and better yourself.
Yeah, well said. Very well said. So Gil, in 2015, you were recognized by your alma mater, Cal State Los Angeles, as one of the 40 distinguished alumni. And you know, that speaks about your life achievements. You know, when you think about all the things that you have achieved in your life and the people recognize you for those things, of course, that has to mean a great deal to you. What are the projects that you are excited about? You know, what are the things that you're working on currently that make you excited?
Well, currently, I just finished my tenure as the chair of the Los Angeles Latino Chamber of Commerce. I'm the chairman emeritus now. And a law was passed. It was AB 962. It has to do with supplier diversity for hospitals. It's a wonderful law. It passed by accident. But for Latinos to succeed financially at every level, you have to have procurement opportunities. And if you have procurement opportunities, you can build wonderful companies, large companies, successful companies that employ many people, including many Latino people. But we have been stymied. For example, in the hospital community, probably 50% across the board on the hospital side are Latino revenues. This is true for Kaiser. This is true of Adventist Health, Children's Hospital. Yet, less than 2% of the procurement opportunities go to the Latino community. And for that matter, the ethnic community is probably like 5-6%. And we're giving them 2/3 of their revenues. So I've been very passionate about that. I've been working with our new president, our new chairman, Daryl Sauceda, at the chamber to try and move the needle. And we've had some success. Adventist Health has been very forthcoming and trying to work with us, but it's going to be an uphill battle. But it's an exciting one. It's an exciting one because I see the potential that it will give, that it can provide for Latino business and for the people that they support. If we can crack that hospital procurement opportunity, maybe we can crack the nonprofit, the for-profit, the government, where although we have some opportunities there, maybe a little bit more, we don't have the fair share of opportunities. So people wonder, why is a Latino business bigger and more successful? It's because there's concrete barriers to that success. And so that's an area that I've really been spending a lot of my time lately, and I'm very excited about it. And I believe ultimately we will be very successful. The other area that I haven't mentioned is, Luis Fernandez kind of touched on it, but it's a Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. You know, first of all, the vaqueros taught all the cowboys all the tricks, how to herd, how to watch the lead bull, manage the other cows, how to farm. You know, the West was already settled when the European Americans came west, but somehow people forget that we were here long before the European American arrived here, and yet we're strangers in our own land. So we need to have people like Mr. Fernandez and other historians talk about this and promote this, because we're not going away. We've been, in fact, as I always say, if you don't like it here, you ought to leave. You know, we were here from day one. You saw it in that map that was produced that showed all the ranchos here in California. And so you're looking at somebody that wants to step forward, but knowing that we have to step forward together. So that's what you asked me, what gets me excited. These are the things that get me excited.
Oh, we know you have a a lot more to give to our community, and we're thankful for that, and we're excited for that. So as I told you, friends, you know, it was going to be a fun one. Would you like to give any final advice to our community, to our friends, to our young friends?
To our young friends, stay focused in your goals, as I said earlier. Stay out of trouble. First of all, it's easy to get into trouble. You get into trouble by accident. So you have to really, you know, it's like anything else. You have to walk on a narrow field. Again, education is the key to success. Now, you don't have to get a college degree, but get an education that gives you the leg up on the next person. Everybody's competing for the good jobs. Everybody's competing to be successful. Everybody's competing for recognition. And so do the right thing every day. Try to be positive. And if you do the right thing every day, you're going to be happy every day. And if you're happy every day, you're going to feel better emotionally and physically, and you'll be more successful. And success is a state of mind as well as a state of money. And so they kind of go hand in hand. So protect your health, do the right thing every day, get involved, as I said earlier, and one day good things will happen, like they've happened to me. So I'm just delighted and very grateful for the opportunity, Jose Luis, that you provided me. All my friends call me Gil, so in the future you can always call me Gil, because I was born, like I said, right in our own community where we were all born, and I enjoy being around people. I enjoy working every day. I'm a hard worker, and being a hard worker is important, by the way. The harder you work, the more recognition you're going to get, and the sooner you get promoted. So people recognize good, hardworking people. So that's my advice.
That's also a whole lot of great advice, and we thank you for that. And we would like to also thank La Plaza for the opportunity to share the stories of our Mexican American history makers, our pearls of wisdom, like we learned from our historian Luis Fernandez. We encourage you to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Mexican American Cultural Education Foundation. Again, our mission is to change the distorted narrative, because as you heard today, Mexican Americans have contributed to this country every single day in amazing ways. And we have been for over 200 years in this country. So as Gil said, we're not new. We're not new arrivals here. We were here before, anybody, the Americans were here. So of course, I'm a proud Mexican American. I don't think there's a better country than the United States, and I'm thankful for being here. I know there might be questions from our friends. So Mr. Abelardo, would you have any questions?
Certainly, we certainly do. And thank you so much, Gil, for joining us today. And here we have from Frank Sacramento. He's asking, how are you able to find the balance or the medium between being active in the community, your professional, and your family?
Great question.
That's probably one of the toughest high wire acts that you can do. First of all, I have wonderful partners. Our firm is very successful. You mentioned we're the largest firm in California. We're the largest Latino-owned CPA firm in California. I wish we were the largest, but that's pretty large. I have wonderful partners. I try to spend some quality time with my family. I try to, I own a fair amount of commercial property. I sit on several boards. So I try to make sure that I always leave enough time on the weekends, especially for my family. So, but you never have enough time. I wish I could tell you that it's perfect, but it's not, but you're always trying your best.
Thank you so much for that. We have from Omar Pichardo. He's asking a couple. First of all, regarding financial literacy and its lack in our community. Are you planning to write a book?
I'm sorry, that's a question for me?
Yes, it is, Gil.
Okay. I keep thinking I want to write a book because of all my experiences that I've encountered and I've enjoyed. So what I have to do is, I guess, set a little time aside and do that. I would like to share my experiences because if anybody can learn from what I've done and be successful, I would want to share that. And so I've had a lot of wonderful experiences. I've had a lot of wonderful successes. I've had a few disappointments in life, like everybody does. But if I take a look at life in its fullest element, it's been a wonderful life. I've had a lot of successes, and if I can share them with other people through a book, then I must do so, and I will do so.
All right. We have the same person. Do you have any financial tips?
Yes. We're all shrewd in our own ways, but somebody gave me this bit of advice. I never forgot it. Leave the last nickel on the table. That means that no matter how smart you are, no matter how clever you are, if you make the deal so that it's a little bit fair, you can do another deal with that same person. If you outwit this person so badly, he'll never do business with you again. So kind of fair. I've had this philosophy. I've never known what fair is, but I do know what unfair is. And so my world, I deal with kind of fair. So as long as I can be kind of fair, as long as I can do a pretty good deal, as long as it seems right and feels right, then I think I'll live to see another day, meaning I live to do another deal. So I tell everybody, just kind of leave that last nickel on the table, make it good for everybody so that you can go back, so that the person that sees you walking down the street won't want to cross the street and avoid you. And that way you'll always have a friend. You'll always be able to do another deal. You'll always have another success in front of you.
Oh, that's awesome advice. We have a shout out here from Victor Griego. I have learned so much from Gil Vasquez over the many years I have known him. That's quite a nice kudo there. From Angelica Urquijo. Awesome interview, Gil. Very passionate about your work. Thank you for your passion on procurement opportunities. It was great to collaborate at the LALCC.
Well, thank you.
All right. Well, thank you all so much. Thank you, Gil, Jose Luis Fernandez, and Micaela behind the scenes. Jerry Velasco, a former, still a Mexican-American history maker, saying, Gil, you are a pioneer.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. Any last words from Gil, from Jose Luis, from Luis before we wrap it up?
Just from my end, follow us on Instagram and Facebook. And keep your ears open. We will be having an event similar to this in a couple of months, and we will let you know in advance. And we're here to change our mission is to change the paradigm.
And to everybody, good luck. And thank you again for the opportunity to be part of this program.
All right, you're welcome. And Luis, any last words here?
Thank you for tuning in, and please follow the Mexican-American Cultural Education on the various platforms for future events. And thank you, Abelardo.
You're welcome. And thank you to all. And thank you to all who joined in from various parts of town. And for Luis, he's saying, Jerry Velasco saying there's still many Mexicans migrating to Hawaii. At least temporarily. Maybe not now, but yeah, for sure. Okay, well, thank you all so much for tuning in to tonight's En Casa con la Plaza, our monthly or bi-monthly with the Mexican-American Cultural Educational Foundation. Coming up this Wednesday, we have kind of a heavy topic here, redlining, housing inequality in LA with Lorenz Ross, an author, a lecturer, and writer who'll be presenting a historical overview of redlining and its impact on Black, Latinos, and Asian Americans in South LA. On Friday the 19th, we have the return of Dan Guerrero and his happy hour. You know, it's always a good time with Dan, bringing on the playwright, the director, the executive director of Casa 0101 from Boyle Heights, Josefina Lopez. We'll be talking about how she came to prominence with her play and later film, Real Women Have Curves, and other topics, I'm sure. And then next week, we start all over again. You could catch all of our En Casa con la Plaza upcoming series on our website at lapca.org. For those of you who may be tuned in late tonight, we recorded this. We'll be posting it on our Facebook page. on our YouTube page at lapca.org, at La Plaza LA, and then also on our website, lapca.org. Thanks again to our sponsors for tonight, PepsiCo and Kaiser Permanente. And again, thank you, all of you, for tuning in. Thank you to our participants for tonight, for making this a really historical event. So, hasta la próxima. We'll see you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.